Ghosts of War, Tears. We convoy to Key West, one perfectly normal day. Bravo Company has its own convoy trailing behind us about 45 minutes. The thing that sucks about convoying for 5 straight hours is the padding in military vehicles might as well be plywood, and the small cabins packed full of basic necessities coupled with the uncomfortable and heavy body armor provide little room to shift weight. We try anyway, but to no avail. Our asses go numb after the first hour. And the second worst part is we drink gallons of water every day, not to mention Red Bull and coffee, so 5 hours with no pee breaks is impossible. We piss into empty bottles and toss them out of the truck, but it's August. We're so used to this lifestyle we could do it in our sleep. Upon arrival at Key West, we drive our convoy straight to the chow hall. There I see some of the Bravo guys who weren't on Bravo's convoy. Since February, most of us have been rotated to Key West. For a while, we rotated a few guys up there every couple of weeks. The first person I see is Juan Hernandez. He's an equipment operator too, and we worked together back in February. Among other jobs, the biggest one was barricading the ECP entry control point that serviced the camp. An ECP is simply a gate where convoys or other personnel enter a high-security camp, or FOB. Without fighting your way through the perimeter, there's no other way into a military post. Hernandez, I, and a few other soldiers from B Company fortified the main ECP to the camp with HESCO barriers. HESCO barriers looks like 4x4 by 6-foot sandbags attached to each other, wrapped in wire mesh. They stand upright, tops open, and engineers use bucket loaders to fill them with dirt. The dirt to catch bullets. Hey, Hernandez, I yell as I approach him in the chow hall's gravel parking lot. Hey, Smithson, he said, how are you? Same shit, different day. You? I'm all right. Hernandez seems distant, but this happens when you're in a combat zone. A lot of us feel distant. Distant from family, distant from love, distant from life. So I don't think anything of it. After getting our meals, we sit down with a group of Bravo guys. Hey, Smithson, said Sergeant Stone. Good to see you. Have you been? Good, Sarge, I say, starving. As I eat, I notice the whole group seems distant. You guys all right? I ask them. You didn't hear? Says Hernandez. I shake my head. Sergeant Coughlin died today, he said. He was on the convoy behind you. Oh, man, I said. IED? Hernandez nods his head. 10 months into this tour, we haven't lost anyone, and now, out of nowhere. Was he the one who worked out a lot? Yeah, he was on that ECP mission with us. And he was a sergeant, I say? I try to picture the sergeant of B Company, those with whom I worked back in February. The only sergeants I remember out of the ECP are Stone and that crazy old guy. What is his name? Blake. Yeah, Blake, I said. I'd almost forgotten. Blake was a fanatical old man. Picture Christopher Lloyd wearing a desert Kevlar. Picture him laughing with an unfitted cigarette in his mouth and jabbing at your ribs. His eyes are decorated with crow's feet, and his unbuttoned chin strap swings around as he laughs. I want to share the memory. I want to tell Juan Hernandez all about it and laugh with him, but the painful look on his face stops me. I think he made sergeant after you left, says Stone. You know him as a specialist. Yeah, I remember him. I lie. I remember that Jim Coughlin worked out a lot, but I don't remember Jim Coughlin. He is these guys' brother. He died 45 minutes behind me, and I am ashamed that I can't recall a single moment with him. We sit in silence for a while, reflecting, eating, wondering about life and war and peace and death. You guys okay? I asked Jim Coughlin's brothers. They shrug. Really, because they don't know. Reality hasn't set in yet. It's even too early for shock. Then Stone says, people die. He shoves a piece of army steak into his mouth and chews. I am shocked at the insensitivity. I try to place myself in their shoes. I picture losing someone like Sebastian Krosky or Todd Wenger, Scott Moore, Jesse Smith, Josh Ramone, or anyone. I almost cry at the mere thought, and this guy shrugs it off like people die. I mean, for Christ's sake, show some emotion. Your fellow soldiers was just bombed to death. Our fellow soldier, and some ignorant Haji flipped the trigger. What happened to vengeance and spitefulness? What happened to hate? What happened to winning the war? Then it hits me. Showing emotion shows vulnerability, and vulnerability gives into the fear. It's not a macho thing. It's about the need to survive. That's what terrorism was all about, mortal fear. If we let the fear take over, we lose. We can't lose. We have to stay strong. There's a time and a place for grieving, and it's not in the chow hall eating boot leather covered in A1 steak sauce. People die. Insensitive. True. This is a war. We forget that sometimes. 100 successful convoys, and you tend to forget. Before I left the States, 1,001 people told me to avoid getting complacent, especially those who served in Vietnam. We never really become complacent. Our eyes are always open, always ready, but sometimes we do forget that we're in a combat zone. B Company lives in old airplane hangars. Cots and walls, lockers are scattered across the hangar's concrete floor. Some have towers or ponchos strung up with 550 cord to provide privacy. Some have stuffed animals from girlfriends and wives. Some have TVs, some have laptops, some have pictures and birthday cards and non-perishable food. And everything is needlessly camouflaged. The Army issued brown towels, the Army green cots and socks and ponchos, the tan wall lockers and desert boots and desert uniforms. The place is decorated in the classic style that is the Army. It's ugly, it's beautiful. Hernandez points to a locker that looks like all the rest and says, "That's his." I can't remember who Coughlin is. I can't put a face to the name, so Hernandez shows me. Coughlin's tan wall locker is covered with pictures. Most of are his family. Some are of him and his B Company friends. I study the pictures carefully, trying to hear his voice in my head, trying to remember a conversation we had. In his pictures, Jim Coughlin is young and full of life. He smiles in every one. Pictures of soldiers in a combat zone rarely have people smiling, but Jim seemed to be a genuinely happy person, and now I remember what he looked like, but there's still a problem. I can't remember who he was. Coughlin's bed is made. It's a cot with a sleeping bag on top, so maybe made is an understatement. His bed is neat. The brown t-shirt he used as a pillowcase is covered in drool stains. Some of his fellow friends have placed his rosary neatly on his army brown pillow. Coughlin was a devout Catholic. One of his friends, the guy on the cot next to him, takes a break from a PlayStation game. The screen is temporarily frozen and the level is loading. He looks down towards the neatly displayed rosary and stares. He stares at Jim Coughlin's empty cot. What is he thinking about? He's remembering the smell of Coughlin's aftershave, the sound of Coughlin's voice, maybe a conversation they had, a philosophical conversation about life and death, because that's how soldiers sometimes talk to each other. He doesn't cry. He doesn't even really look sad. He looks thoughtful. He just stares. In an unguarded moment, as if nothing else in the world matters. Not the hangar, not the video game, not the heat, not the war, not anything. He's wondering where Jim Coughlin is now. How he can just be gone. He's wondering what Jim's parents are like and how his mom will carry on after she gets the news. He's wondering how his mom would carry on if she heard similar news. He's wondering why it hurts so much. He learns things while staring at his friend's empty cot. He learns that life is not everything he thought it was. He learns what war means. He learns what peace means. He learns that death is not discriminatory. He learns that after 10 solid months, James H. Coughlin will not walk through the hangar door later tonight. He will not stow his gear and share a meaningful conversation while he unlaces his boots. He will not rub foot powder into his cracked feet, read a chapter in a book, and then drool on the brown t-shirt he used as a pillowcase. Not tonight, not ever again. A week later, we make another log pack up to Q West for supplies, sure, but mostly we go for Jim Coughlin's funeral. 100 people sit in fold-out chairs. They start with a slideshow full of pictures of Coughlin. It's to the song Forever Young. Jim Coughlin was 22 when he was blown up. Forever young indeed. A piece of shrapnel from an IED is what did him in. It was on August 21st, 9 days before my birthday, 15 after his. Jim hardly knew what hit him. He died of shock, says the medic from B Company. I said he died from joining the Army. A guy who was 22, liked by everyone, smart, athletic, funny, charming, hardworking, and his voice I can't hear in my head has died, and I was on the road 45 minutes ahead of him, pissing into a bottle when he was killed. Here I am at a man's funeral, and I hardly knew him. Why didn't I get to know him better? What the hell is wrong with me? Maybe I should have seen it coming. How could I have seen this coming? 10 months into this tour, and we haven't lost a single person. Then we lose Jim Coughlin. I sit in my fold-out chair. One of Coughlin's buddies goes on stage. He has a guitar, and another guy holds up a microphone so we can all hear the words to the song he wrote. The guy's singing. He's holding back tears because he's not vulnerable. It dawns on me that Coughlin died 5 days ago. This guy wrote this song in less than a week. That's pretty impressive, and I respect it. It doesn't draw tears, really. It's not that good, but it's a song about a fallen soldier. It's exceptional. He leaves, and a couple of soldiers who were closest to Coughlin say a few words, but I don't know them. I know their names throughout the tour, before. I've worked with all of them, but I don't know them. They know Jim Conklin like a brother. Their speeches draw tears, but I don't cry. The crowd is sniffling, but I told Holbein back. Vulnerability, sure. Detachment, sure. But it's more than that. I hardly knew Jim Conklin. I worked with him, yes, for 2 weeks in February, but I don't really remember him. I am ashamed, and this is why I hold back tears. They feel like crying, but I feel like it's not my place to cry. Jim Conklin's real friends have gone through hell since he died. This hell will always be part of them, and I don't share it. I'm not entitled to share tears. I told my friends from Bravo Company, I told Jim Conklin that I'd come back. It was great to work with you, I said. I'll be back soon. They truly are an exceptional group of people. I told them I volunteered to come back for another rotation at Q West, but I never did. There were a lot of other missions going on, and I got lost in the mess. I could have told Reniger to send me back, but I didn't. I betrayed them. I betrayed Jim. Now he's dead, and I'm not entitled to tears. His best friend is done talking, and the whole room sniffles. I stare at the M16 up on stage, Jim Conklin's rifle, upside down and wearing his Kevlar and dog tags, standing alone on stage. A small box is beside it on the ground. It has a clear face, and inside, arranged neatly, are all of his medals and awards. An 11 by 14 frame portrait of Conklin in his dress green sits on the stand. Bravo Company's first sergeant, the enlisted soldier who works directly with the commander, takes a stand and does what's called the last call. Staff Sergeant Holmes, he says, reading the name off a paper. Somewhere in the crowd, here for Sergeant. Specialist Carlton, here for Sergeant. Sergeant First Class Blake, here for Sergeant. Sergeant Conklin, and the whole room is silent. Sergeant Jim Conklin, the first sergeant says again. No one says a word. Sergeant James Henry Conklin, nothing. And then he tells us to stand for the 21-gun salute. 7 people stand at attention off to the left. Someone standing beside them gives orders, and they each fire 3 synchronized blank rounds at the ceiling. Jim Conklin did not die in my arms. I didn't witness his death. I didn't call in the 9 line report to have him medevaced out of the kill zone. I didn't know him. I forgot who he was, and I can't hear his voice in my head. I told him I'd volunteer for another rotation, and I didn't. Maybe I would remember him better if I'd come up a second or third time, but I didn't. We stay standing while someone plays taps. The first set of 3 notes is played. They're slow, precise, and perfect. My bottom lip quivers, but I am not entitled to tears. The second set of 3 notes is played. My eyes water, and the room burns blurry. I didn't know him, this true G.I. Joe, soldier schmo, this hero. He is not my family or close friend. I cannot picture a moment of interaction between the two of us. I know who he is, but I don't know him. His existence meant nothing to me, and at this moment his existence means everything to me. Picture a fence in New York City. Picture being stuck in it. My eyes are blurry and I choke on my own tears. I feel as if I'm trapped in rubble, and the weight of James H. Conklin's last goodbye is overwhelming. I shed tears I don't deserve to shed. I'm not entitled to tears, but they come nonetheless. They are not quiet, respectful funeral tears. They are tears for a fellow soldier, as a brother I hardly knew, and I sob like a baby. I bury my face in my hands like a mother who puts flowers by her dead son's picture, like Jim Conklin's mother. I have lost nothing in Jim Conklin's death, but in a way I have lost everything. These tears for injustice, for impurity, for virtue, for love, for hate, for misunderstanding, for innocence, for guilt, for nothing, and for everything.